live streams and there's all kinds of things. And yeah, the whole point of a podcast was it was supposed to be just grab a mic and start recording,
Yeah.
Hello, Dan.
Oh, Lewis, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
There's something literally covering your screen?
No, I
the microphone, and now there's YouTube live streams. So my voice is now coming in through someone else's mic.
Don't worry, I stopped that. That was that was YouTube. That was YouTube.
All right, okay.
I would love to know how to fix this.
Have you restarted your computer?
No. Can you be fucked?
Yeah, no, give it a go. Give it a restart.
Sorry, gang. I'll be back in however long this ancient thing takes.
Rational Fear live stream. Excuse me, burping into the mic.
Bless you.
Publish now. Here we go.
So are we live streaming on YouTube right now?
We're live streaming to the Patreon.
Cool.
So hopefully about 6 people will see it.
Nice.
Wait.
Quality 6 people though, right? Yeah. That's what matters.
It's about, providing added value to the folks who give us $3 a month, which is very good. It pays for the half the podcast.
I tried Patreon. I did. I gave it a go for just to kind of make a living. And the pressure of giving extra content to people and kind of making and living up to this, their extra dollar or something was too much for me. After 2 weeks, I was like, I can't do this. I'd rather be broke.
Totally.
It's hard enough coming up with new jokes, let alone additional jokes, exclusive jokes.
And then they want to see behind the scenes. I'm like, what's the behind the scenes and what we do? It's just me sitting in front of a table crying.
Yeah.
What do you want?
I just set up Discord to kind of show people behind the scenes. So that's like my other.
That's cool.
That's like my other added value for Patreon subscribers, that if they want to log on to my chat, they can help me write jokes on script day, which is today.
Oh, that's rad.
A couple of people in there. So, it's good. Like I kind of put stories in there. Let me share the screen. I'll show you kind of how I'm doing it.
What's the difference between Discord and Twitch? Because I just bought a PlayStation 4 for the first time recently when Isolation started. So I'm now a gamer. So,
I've always thought you were a gamer.
No, never before.
I don't know if you can see. This is my Discord.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
This is all of your names. There's Lewis. Hello, mate.
Hello. Success.
There we go.
And potential stories to talk about.
Cool.
And then David Bluestein's writing a joke. And
of course he is, yeah.
And I kind of put in a joke here. Then I've kind of got one-on-one people who want to, who we should talk to,
Cool.
Content that people can share out if they want to. So anyway, I'm trying to run that now. That's kind of like the hub for for people who want an engaging conversation. All right. Hello, Lewis. How are you?
Hello. Okay. Yeah, I'm all right. Sorry, I was a little bit.
Hello, Lewis.
Hey, Sammy. How you doing?
Good.
Beck, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Tomorrow, I start a little break. Tomorrow's my last day of work for 2 weeks.
Oh, heck yeah.
And it's our first break since the pandemic, and I am really excited.
I have a joke about you going on a road trip.
Great. I actually am going on a road trip.
Oh, great. Perfect. That works. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
Right, let me just get up. We've got
to Wodonga?
Yeah, that's right.
To the border.
I'm going to the Crossroads Hotel.
Yeah.
Great.
Place to be.
All right. I guess if we are all ready, I'm all ready. We should crack on.
Cool.
All right, here we go. Hello, Lewis.
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Oh, look, I'm great because we've got a whole bunch new Patreon subscribers. Julia Stafford, Kieran Costolino, fellow Bertha fellow, Antonio Uhas from the US, who we'll be hearing from a little later on, and also Eric with a K.
Damn. All right, we're hitting that Swedish market.
That's right, yeah. They all signed up for as little as $3 a month to help us make the show. Our generous Patreon subscribers cover about 50% of the costs of making this show, and the rest of it, well, I don't want to brag, but I have been employed from time to time. So, I chip in a little bit. Lewis, you know what they used to say when we worked at the ABC together? They used to say it was a privilege to work at the ABC because they paid us so badly.
Yeah, they had to convince you somehow. It is a privilege to work at the national broadcaster.
And having a podcast is an absolute honour. Let's put it that way. This episode of Irrational Fear is supported in part by the Bertha Foundation, fighting for a more just world. I'm recording my end of this show on Gadigal land in the Eora Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded. Let's start the show. Tonight on Irrational Fear, the federal government is set to cut loans to university students who fail their subjects, leaving many politicians in politics if they don't get experience first in failing while being taxpayer funded. And the Victorian Racing Club wants a crowd of up to 50,000 people for Melbourne Cup Day, with plans to rebrand the iconic event as the race that restarts the pandemic. And Joe Biden has picked his running mate, Kamala Harris, who is now just a heartbeat, an election, a Russian... And Joe Biden has picked his running mate, Kamala Harris, who is now just a heartbeat, an election, a Russian disinformation campaign, a plague, a depression, and a civil war away from the presidency. This is Irrational Fear. Yes, this is Irrational Fear. I'm former Channel 10 weatherman Dan Illich, and joining us on the panel this week to discuss all the news we should be scared of is former ABC Melbourne breakfast host and champion of the 2010 direct-to-video classic, Batman Under the Red Hood. It's Sammy Shah. Hey, Sammy, you wrote 10 years ago on Twitter today that Batman...
Thank you so much for having me. I will get back to the Joker.
You wrote on Twitter 10 years ago today that it was bloody awesome. Do you still stand by that?
You know what? Of all the different DC animated films, I will still maintain Batman Under the Red Hood is in the top 3. It definitely is. It still lives up to the high standard that they set. And yeah, absolutely. The Joker has it coming, and my boy is going to give it to him.
And she's a lawyer by day, comedian by night, returning panelist, and half woman, half dolphin. It's Beck Melrose. Beck, what's the ocean like right now?
It's just good to be anywhere other than my house.
And from next week, he's taking 2 weeks off the podcast to drive around the country, destroying 5G phone towers as he goes. It's Lewis Hobber.
Hello, Dan. Yeah, that's right. I'm hoping to be Australia's greatest vector.
We'll talk about this later on, but I went on a road trip a couple of weeks ago, and I felt very nervous that I could be a vector around New South Wales.
Well, the worst thing about it is the place I'm actually going is I'm going to Byron Bay for 2 weeks, which is essentially the home of people who don't wash their hands. Like, I will get it.
And none of those people are going to get vaccinated. They're immune vulnerable.
No, they'll see me in a mask. They'll beat me up. They'll burn down the nearest 5G tower. It's going to be a really relaxing holiday.
You're not going to get coronavirus, Lewis, because you'll be too busy getting smallpox and polio instead from there. So,
yeah, I'm going to go old school. Just crack out the bubonic
first.
plague.
Yeah, collect them all. I like that, Beck. Podcast this week, we've got 2 special guests coming up a little later on. We're going to be talking with Paddy Manning from the Saturday paper about the major threat facing the Adani Carmichael mine, and also chatting with US-based journalist Antonio Yuhas, who tells us what Kamala Harris means for climate action in the United States. But first, here is this week's sponsor.
Hi, I'm Peter Dutton. Many of you have reached out to say that Australian Border Force is responsible for the disembarkment of contagious COVID-19 passengers from the Ruby Princess. Well, 2 things. 1, thanks for reaching out. We now know where you live, and we will be in touch sooner or later, or when you least expect it. And 2, it's not true. Australian Border Force has a proud half-decade history of stopping boat people from destroying Australia. And technically, the Ruby Princess was a ship. Those people were ship people, and that's not our bag. Locking up boat people, Australian Border Force. Locking up ship people, it's legally ambiguous, but I'd suggest probably the fault of a pro-union, pro-Labor Port Authority. Australian Border Force. We stop the boats, not ships. Spoken and authorised by Peter Dutton. I know where you live, Canberra.
So it's good to have Peter Dutton's money on the show. First fear tonight, Russian state media is claiming that Russia has the COVID-19 vaccine. It would make sense, of course, because Russia, a lot of their it would make sense that Russia would come out first because, after all, the Tokyo Olympics have been cancelled and there are a lot of Russian pharmaceutical experts who've got a lot of time on their hands. Russian journalists are declaring this a Sputnik moment. What does this Sputnik moment mean, Sammy Shah?
It's really remarkable that they've called it the Sputnik moment because they've called the vaccine Sputnik 5, right? And the idea being, according to Putin, they are paying homage to the fact that they were the first into space with Sputnik 5, except one tiny detail that they have not really mentioned and the history books kind of tend to forget is Sputnik 5 didn't actually have any humans on it. It wasn't, Yuri Gagarin wasn't in space until Vostok 1, which was 8 months later. Sputnik 5, however, carried 2 dogs, 40 mice, 2 rats, and a bunch of plants. And I'm assuming those are the things that died in the creation of this so-called vaccine. What's even amazing is normally Russian medicine waits until someone comes out with the vaccine before coming up with their bootleg version. But in this case, we got the bootleg first. And so it's a really exciting change in the pharmaceutical game.
It's like Russian roulette, isn't it? I would say they called it Sputnik because once you inject it, all you hear is beeping and seeing stars. That's all you've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're so good at poison.
It's nice. I reckon it's nice to see toxic masculinity channeled for the greater good for a change, though. Right. Got some positive coming out of it.
They have been so good at poisoning lately, and it's just good to see them still at the top of their game.
Yeah, it's interesting that they field tested this first on Russian dissidents in UK, and the ones that survived that experience are the ones who now don't get coronavirus. But I'm going to pay homage to Dan's pun earlier and just point out that the leader, Vladimir Putin, even though he even vaccinated his daughter, put in her life at stake. Thank you very much. Thank you. I live in Melbourne. There's not much else to do.
Well done.
It's worth a shot.
Sammy, you are welcome on this podcast again.
I mean, if we're going that low, we could say they're rushing it through.
Oh.
They are rushing it through. This is absolutely right. You did mention he did try it out on his daughter first. It's kind of unusual because apparently not many people know about Vladimir Putin's daughters. He doesn't even acknowledge them, and no one in the state apparatus acknowledges them. This is like one of the very first times that he's ever acknowledged the existence of his daughters. It's incredible.
But given that the last time any Russian leader acknowledged their child was when Stalin basically had let his son be killed in a German concentration camp, I think it's all right if we just ignore their parental techniques, basically, overall.
Do we think all we need to do is start getting Trump to convince? All we need to do is start convincing Trump to test things on his children, and we'll be A-okay.
Next fear. During this pandemic, the media have been rather quick to blame and shame all sorts of people for COVID-19 rather than Peter Dutton and Australian Border Force for the arrival of the disease on our shores. What's the point of building like a powerful, centralised mega ministry if you can't even stop one tiny little germ? They had a head start. For one, we're girt by sea. And 2, we've spent the last 20 years building offshore processing centres for this exact thing. But of course, not all blame is equal. On July 30, the Courier Mail doxed two teenagers from Melbourne who travelled through the southeast Queensland. Unknowingly, they had COVID-19. Meanwhile, a Rockhampton doctor, a wealthy Aspen skier, a mercenary from Afghanistan completely escaped the same doxing treatment from the News Corp press. Beck Melrose, who is to blame here?
I think we all are a little bit, aren't we? I mean, it feels good to finally be in control of something, and there's just a lot of scolding going on. Everyone's loving a good scold at the moment, but there's all this research out at the moment that's talking about how this kind of public shaming backfires when it comes to compliance with public health messaging. I think it's true, and privilege is playing a part in it too. I keep going out with my mates, and they're like, "Oh, there are so many people out and about." It's like, we're out and about too. What makes a different rule for us, But there's research out that's saying that non-white and other disadvantaged groups are experiencing this stigma more severely than privileged groups, and that's for sure happening. Why didn't we out the Aspen skiers? How come they got away with it and others haven't?
I think It is so bizarre. Like normally people who go skiing in Aspen, you find out all about it on Instagram, but no, you don't. We didn't hear one skerrick about it from this group that came back with the disease.
Exactly. And I mean, it's everyone's kind of participating in it. And we have a right to be angry, I guess, like it's a very anxious time. And we've got good basis. Public executions used to be our preferred form of entertainment. So this public shaming has just kind of been taken online, and we're going mad with it. There's nothing else to do but like masturbate, watch TV, and shame people on social media. So we're just ripping right in.
2020. That is a great lineup for 2020.
It just seems like since no one's able to actually like touch any hands, we're just pointing our fingers instead.
Yeah, exactly. It's social distance shaming.
Lewis,
and then there's all the like, oh sorry Dan, but all the thing that's getting me as well is when they're releasing these like footprints of all the venues that people have been to as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would be so embarrassed. Like you'd look at mine and she'd be like, why is she going to open mics in a pandemic? Like stay home. And there's never, a library's never listed. Like it's all the loose units who are getting it. Like there's never Leichhardt Community Centre that's been closed for a deep clean.
Dan Illich went to KFC and Krispy Kremes on the same day?
In one day?
Lewis, do you think naming and shaming works, or do you think it makes at least some people feel good?
I mean, it definitely makes people at the Courier Mail feel a little better, I would say. But yeah, it is the absolute huge gap between the people that they're naming and shaming is so obvious, and it's so frustrating because those two people who did get doxxed, obviously, they weren't their behavior wasn't likable. It was difficult to defend, but it is one of those things where you're like, it's a difference between defending their behavior and defending the outing of them, which was so unconscionable and so obviously racist. You just, as you say, the Aspen skiers, so many different kinds of people who have broken quarantine and not a single one of them has made the front page.
Sammy, you're at the end of a second week of hard lockdown in Melbourne. If you could burn off some energy, blow off some steam right now and put someone on the front page of the Courier Mail, who would it be?
Well, see, because it is the Courier Mail, that's a trick question, right? I can't put a white person on the front page of the Courier Mail because no one will believe it. They'll just think that the gamma settings on the Photoshop system were wrong and these are actually meant to be two black people, because the Courier Mail has never put a face on the front in a negative way. If it was a white person, it's always going to be a black or a brown person. So it's been really remarkable to kind of see this embrace of racism here in Australia, because you've never seen something like it before. I really had no idea that Australia had any racism at all as a country. Australians were racist people. So it's really a shock to me, to my system. I feel betrayed. I feel surprised, let down. I don't know what to believe in anymore. Next thing you know, Russia's going to go on vaccines or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm just hurt. I'm just hurt. That's all I can say.
Sammy, are you nervous when lockdown is over and you have to go and meet your fellow racist Australians outside?
I feel like the
only positive of quarantine.
No, it's I've been making up for it. Like I am alone in the house, so basically I try to fill my social circle and create that faux Australian experience by just calling myself racist things, and I look in the mirror and I tell myself to go back where I came from, and sometimes I yell, I grew here, not flew here, and then I just feel like I'm home again.
I reckon the only way we would see like two brown people on the front cover of the Courier Mail with any kind of like positive headline would be if it was two white guys in blackface.
Hey is back.
And they'd be like, look at these legends. Bloody larrikins. The Aussie spirit's still alive.
All right.
God.
Next fear this week in this week, the US presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden picked the very obvious choice of Kamala Harris as his running mate for the 2020 election. Fearmongers, we are 82 days away from either more of the same or perhaps someone who could make America normal again. What are your thoughts on Kamala Harris?
Dan, firstly, I want to commend you on your pronunciation of the name Kamala, because most of America has been torn apart by how to pronounce her name. They've been Kamalas, they've been Kamalas, they've been all kinds of things. So in 2016, she actually released a video showing people how to pronounce her name using children.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you watched it. So I just want to, hats off to you, Dan.
I actually spent a bit of time in the United States, so I've kind of absorbed it from the news and things like that from my colleagues. And one of my colleagues actually gave me a contact for Kamala, and I think we can just give her a call right now. Let me see if we can just give her a call. We'll get Kamala on the line. They said this was Kamala's number. Let's.
I wonder if she has an Indian accent.
Oh, hang on a second. I'm not connected to my Bluetooth. My Bluetooth's not connected. Stand by, everyone.
While we're waiting,
Oh, sorry.
you're on.
Lewis?
No, go. No, I was just going to fill the time.
Well, here we go. Let me do the intro again. Well, Sammy, I can pronounce it well because I've spent a lot of time in America working as a producer and a journalist. And one of my American contacts actually gave me Kamala's number, and we can give her a call to congratulate her. Let me just line that up right now. Let's give Kamala a call. They said, is this Kamala's number? They said, yes, this is Kamala's number.
Remarkable.
Let's have a look.
Hello.
Hello, is this Kamala Harris?
She's in the kitchen right now. Do you need to speak to her?
Hang on. No, we do. Yeah, we do want to talk to Kamala.
Oh, I don't know whether she is free to talk right now.
Okay, great. Well, we'll call back another time.
Okay.
So that's Kamal. He's doing comedy. But it really didn't work. Let's give him a call. Call him back.
I feared this is where it would go. I was like, oh, he's got Kamal's number, hasn't he?
No better place for it to have gone.
Kamal, is this Kamala or is this Kamal?
Depends.
Oh, hang on a second. Well, I've got the wrong.
There we go. There are those dulcet tones.
Look, I'm so sorry. I can't believe my friend gave me the wrong number to Kamala Harris. Kamal.
Yes.
I understand you are a mega US politics fan.
Not really. I became an Obama tragic after meeting him personally in 2011. But before that, I don't know. In fact, I had read his book, The Audacity of Hope, in 2007. And that changed. I had never been interested in politics at all till I came across the book on my way to Malaysia in the latter part of 2007. And so I never dreamt that I would eventually meet him and dine with him. And in fact, as a tribute to him, I recorded the Gettysburg Address in 2012. And I'm not sure whether he's ever heard it, but yes, I have followed American politics, and unfortunately, the last 2 or 3 years, I've wasted a lot of time chasing Obama's successor, and perhaps the word successor is not the right operative word. Now, I don't know how you would describe the 45th president of the United States, but I can't find words in the dictionary to describe him the way I would like to.
That's okay. And this is a family show, Kamal, so we wouldn't want anything else. Now, since we thought we were talking to Kamala Harris, can we talk to you as if you might be Kamala? How are you feeling about getting the nomination? Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I never, ever, ever dreamed that I would be selected by Joe, even though actually I dated his son for a little while.
And Kamala, tell us, what are your plans for this election?
Well, in fact, if dreams could come true, I would like to erase racism and prejudice, and that let humanity, kindness. That I think there's someone in your country, in Australia,
yeah,
has asked the question: why are so many people so unkind? And I ask myself that very same question. I mean, how do we substitute unkindness with kindness? Maybe it comes with knowledge.
Well, Kamala, I think that's very sage words. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
That's the least I could do, and I will give your best wishes to Joe Biden, that is.
All right, excellent. And when you become vice president, can we come and visit you at the White House?
I hope by that time you decide to come, I might be president.
Well, anything is possible. Can we talk to Kamal just for 1 second?
Of course. Well, who do you want to talk to now?
Kamal, I want to talk to you. Tell me, how do
sure.
you are a US politics nut. What's the one thing you find interesting about Kamala Harris?
Maybe I suppose the fact that she's part Indian, there is a umbilical connection to that. I don't know why I react that way. But maybe the fact that I have 5 of the letters of my name connected to hers, who knows? But basically, the way Kamala disposed of William Barr during the cross-examination, and the way that was just brilliant. The Attorney General of the United States couldn't respond coherently to Kamala. I mean, to me, that should be enshrined and should be repeated.
Maybe that is going to be your next video. You are going to be reenacting Kamala Harris ripping William Barr, and you won.
So will you play Barr then?
Yes, I'll play Barr.
Interestingly enough, did you know Barr's father had connections with Jeffrey Epstein?
I had no idea, and I guess Epstein's dead, and I guess that's not defamatory.
Seriously, William Barr's father employed Jeffrey Epstein because Jeffrey Epstein was a phenomenal teacher. I think he taught maths and science, and he was brilliant. He was like the Dead Poet Society, Robin Williams. That he had a way to hypnotize kids, but that was fine. Except that his other traits spoiled everything.
Yeah, all right.
And after William Barr's father had employed Jeffrey Epstein, within 6 months they were both expelled from the school.
If you want to find out more about Kamal's own interests in US politics, all you got to do is follow him on Twitter. He's very engaged. Kamal, thank you so much for joining us on A Rational Fear.
The pleasure was entirely mine, and please be kind.
Thank you, Kamal.
He will.
Oh, I can't believe I got that number mixed up. Oh,
that's unbelievable. I can't believe I saw him at the 2005 Big Day Out.
Did you?
Not realizing it. Yeah. The Vice President of the United States.
You just ruined Dead Poet Society forever for me now.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, Captain, my captain. Oh no, come on my island.
Man, that was so wild. I really didn't see the Epstein stuff coming at the end. I did not. I love Kamal. Yeah, I just didn't see the pedophile island chat coming from Kamal.
Yeah.
I mean, he is best friends with Rupert Murdoch. So, him becoming vice president wouldn't be the only way Rupert Murdoch gives a Democratic nominee any good coverage. So, yeah, who knows?
All right. Okay, Paddy, we're up to you.
Hi.
All right, here we go. From the cut and thrust of, I've got to throw to the other thing, and then we come to you. To chat through what this VP pick means for the future of climate action in the USA, I spoke with fellow Bertha Fellow and energy analyst and investigative journalist Antonia Juhasz earlier yesterday. From the cut and thrust of climate action in America to the pull and fart of climate denialism in Australia, the economic case for coal could sink one of the most contentious coal projects in the world, the Adani Carmichael mine, also known as the Adani Pit of Global Heat Death. Paddy Manning from the Saturday paper has written a brilliant piece on why it might fall over. Paddy, thank you so much for joining us on A Rational Fear.
Thanks, Dan. There's no pits of heat death, though, in the story. I don't know much about those.
Well, I've got some questions for you about your story. First question, Paddy. Who is your favourite contestant on this season of The Bachelor so far?
I haven't watched a minute of it.
Perfect. Now, for those who aren't aware of the Adani Carmichael mine, what threat does it pose to the Earth as a whole?
The Adani mine is basically a threat because the infrastructure, in particular the rail, needed to get that coal to the coast because it's about 400 k's inland from the North Queensland coast. Once that's built, it'll make a whole basin, a whole new thermal coal basin in Queensland kind of economic. So the reason this coal has not been developed before is because it's not particularly good coal in the Australian context. We've got the best coal in the world, and because it's a long way from a port. And so this has been targeted by activists for a decade now because it's the first of it's the first project to open up a new basin. So it's not so much this one mine, although the scale of this mine as it was originally proposed at 60 million tonnes per annum is enormous. But there's it's the other mines behind it, which are also, proposed by Clive Palmer, Gina Reinhart, the lot. So.
Is it possible, however, though, Paddy, that the sheer destruction this would wreak in Queensland is entirely what Queenslanders deserve because largely they're full of shit and horrifically terrible people?
Possible.
Sammy's just trying to get himself on the front page of the Courier Mail this week.
Look, Queensland's, it's an interesting proposition because Queensland's actually, it's the future of its coal fields is much more secure than the future of the coal fields in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, or certainly the brown coal that's mined for energy in Victoria. So basically because Queensland has got the highest proportion of coking coal, which is used for steel making and is, much more valuable. It's got a higher calorific value and it's so the mine life, for the Queensland coking coal mines is, that they can reasonably expect to be mining that for, decades. Thermal coal, which accounts for 90% of the tons in the world that's shipped by sea, thermal coal is much more threatened immediately because it's, it's facing competition from renewables, and it's under pressure from investors for the obvious reasons, due to climate change.
Paddy, for reading your
Nothing
piece,
to do with whether Queenslanders are nice people or not. They just happen to be sitting on this incredibly excellent coking coal resource. And, Adani's mine, the Carmichael mine, it's not going to do a hell of a lot for, you might have read about Clermont at the election last year. There was a Bob Brown rally, the Stop Adani rally that went up to Clermont.
Yeah.
It was a great bit of kind of political theatre. It was, but it was nowhere near the Carmichael mine. It's like 150 kilometres from the Carmichael mine. There is no one that lives near the Carmichael mine. If anyone's going to benefit, it's probably the people driving in and out of Townsville. So, the people at Clermont that I was talking to when I was up there were saying, we're not going to get anything out of this mine. We just don't want people from, the Southerners coming up and telling us what to do. So it's a kind of the politics of the mine has got completely divorced from the commercial reality. And that's what I was trying to bring it back to in this story.
Paddy.
So go Lewis. Yeah.
Paddy, I was reading your piece, and that's really interesting. I had a couple of questions about it. But when you say that the economic side is divorced now, why would Adani push forward with it?
Well, because he's got the sunk costs. Well, he's partly because he's already bought the Abbott Point coal terminal for $2 billion in 2010. So he's got this integrated strategy, which is described as pit, as in the mine pit, all the way through the rail, through the shipping, to the power station back in India, and then to the plug-in homes in India or Bangladesh. And so it's called pit to plug. And he bought the port a decade ago. and he bought the tenement, as in the ground, of Link Energy a decade ago. Now, the thing, what's happened is that the world has completely changed in those 10 years. And so he's looking at a sunk, he's made money off the coal terminal in the meantime, but he's kind of at this juncture where, and this is what I sort of focused on in the story, has he spent so much, he's right at that tipping point, has he spent so much on this mine that he can't afford to pull out? Or would it be better if he could just find another mine that didn't require him to build 400 kilometers of rail, which BHP, as it happens, wants to sell the biggest coal mine in the country down in the Hunter Valley, which is Mount Arthur. And that's what I think is an interesting development in the last month.
And why is BHP selling that mine?
Well, BHP has already spun off most of its thermal coal assets 5 years ago into a company called South 32. And BHP, like most investors, is coming under pressure to get its emissions down. So a lot of big businesses have, talk about net zero emissions by 2050. And BHP is under pressure from its own shareholders, including one of its largest, which is the Norwegian, Sovereign Wealth Fund, to get rid of thermal coal. The other thing is thermal coal has tanked as a commodity. Prices halved in the course of the last couple of years. So, now that's cyclical, and a lot of, you would have seen Glencore in the last, recent weeks has cut its production, and that's going to cause job losses in New South Wales as well. So, the coal sector, like the oil and gas industry, has been hit by the pandemic. So it's a good time to sell.
One of the most interesting things in this piece that you wrote was just really floored me. Back in May, Mr. Adani wrote on LinkedIn that COVID-19 was an opportunity to pause, rethink, and design a new, faster transition to low carbon future. And he ends this piece by saying, although the impact of climate change is slower to emerge than the pandemic, its threat to humanity is more significant. Therefore, the case of transition to a cleaner energy future must be taken up not only by government, but also by industry. India is quietly and firmly leading the way. COVID-19 may be the turning point where society leverages the economic rebuilding effort to fast track the transition to a cleaner future. That doesn't sound like a coal-thirsty member of the coalition. Like if Keith Pitt, Matt Canavan were at a pub and Mr. Adani walked in and said that to them, they would tell Mr. Adani to fuck off out and never come back into that pub again. For me, it's like his interests and his values are clearly at odds with this coal mine. How long do you think it will be before he completely capitulates and gets rid?
Sorry, just to interrupt, Dan, when did he write that?
In May.
Because in 1998, I remember there was a story out of India that he had been kidnapped at gunpoint and held at gunpoint for a while until he was released on ransom. So I thought maybe this was something that he'd written at gunpoint, as a signal to people that I'm still alive, but things are not good right now.
Yeah, he was tied up in the basement of Greta Thunberg's house, and Greta Thunberg had
Someone should check him for him again.
The truth is he's aiming to make Adani the biggest renewable energy player in the world by 2030. He is has a huge investment in renewables, and his wealth is very much, he's got half a dozen listed companies in India. He's the second, or it depends which, wealth chart you look at, the rich list, but he's certainly one of the most, if not the second. I had thought he was the second. The fact checker said it was the fifth. It seems to change year by year, of course, but second most richest person.
I'm actually the second, Paddy. I'm actually the second richest person.
All on Patreon, all based on Patreon.
Yeah. So he's worth something like $16 billion. And a lot of that is to do with his investment in clean energy and transmission in India.
It's interesting in your piece, like just the stat in your piece was fascinating. He's worth $16 billion. 5 years ago, he started the renewable business. That business is now worth $8 billion. Yet over the last 10 years, he's sunk $1 billion into the Carmichael mine.
Yeah. So, there used to be, analysts used to say in the coal space that the Galilee Basin's not economic when the coal price is below $100 a ton. Yeah. So because you've got to fund the rail and the whole thing. It's a greenfields project. So, the coal price now is about $50 a ton. But because Adani's made so much money, including on green energy, he can afford to bankroll this project. Also because he's not paying tax, he's routing a lot of his, Australian earnings through the, Cayman Islands and other tax havens. So, but Adani's not a greenie. He's got a terrible environmental track record in India.
Right.
He's a billionaire, and he's like this with Narendra Modi, and Narendra Modi's prime ministership has been a boon for him. So Narendra Modi came in partly on a platform of getting rid of crony capitalism. The way it was described to me is he's done that. He's just reduced the number of cronies. Of course, the remaining cronies are more powerful than ever. And Gautam Adani is one of those. Yeah. And so what you're dealing with is someone who now can afford to bankroll even a loss-making project. I mean, the economics of this project never really stacked up unless you were selling the coal to yourself to burn, as Adani is planning to do, and on sell as power at double the market rate to states, including Bangladesh, who don't have much alternative. So, it's a complete fiction, the way the coalition talks about how, we're trying to, provide electricity to impoverished, people in India who don't have power. They have much better options than buying it from Adani, believe me. But he is powerful. He gets he wants a tax-free zone. He gets it. He wants a regulatory holiday or a royalty holiday. He gets it. And it's because of his political clout and the economics. If you subsidize something enough, if you bend enough rules and regulations, the economics look after themselves.
Paddy,
maybe he's doing it out of spite because he saw that picture of Prime Minister Scott Morrison trying to make a curry at home, and it was so offensive to anyone of an Indian background. He's like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna fucking destroy Australia
burn the country down
for that bullshit." Yeah, and Queensland has to go anyway, so it's fine. Yeah. Fair call.
The Stop Adani campaign used to describe him as the perfect villain, and I think that there is probably an element of pride in the fact that he's become a villain, and that's probably, he's probably got a degree of obstinacy about this project now. I don't think that BHP, what was in my story was that the fact that Bloomberg had reported only a couple of weeks previously that, surprise, surprise, Adani had bid for this Mount Arthur mine. Now, you put two and two together because Adani's Australian chief executive recently quit unexpectedly, Lucas Dow, and he's been the one that's been the culture warrior, taking it on the chin, fighting the greenies. Then he quits, he disappears. And who do they replace him with? The guy who used to run Mount Arthur at BHP. So there's kind of people in the market going, hang on, what is going on here? And I quote Tim Buckley, the analyst, who is an opponent of the Adani mine, admittedly, but he is an experienced financial analyst in Australia in the merchant banking community, and he knows what he's talking about. And he's saying there is a possible win-win here because BHP wants to get out of thermal coal. The workers at Mount Arthur want to continue. It's better quality coal than what's in the Galilee Basin. It's cheaper to mine, and it would suit Adani. So what the question raised is, what is Adani's real commitment to the Galilee Basin and to Queensland? And I think you'll probably find, look, I'm hesitant to make a prediction, but there is this enticing win-win scenario that's kind of emerging.
But the timing has to be pretty soon, though, right? They're just starting to build that railway. As soon as they make that railway, that unlocks the basin. So he might as well move. I mean, in a climate perspective, he needs to move quick so the Galilee Basin doesn't get unleashed.
Maybe if they hire the same people to build that railway that built the Sydney Light Rail, we might have an extra 10 years or so.
That'll buy us some time, won't it? Far out. I didn't realise how much I had in common with Adani. I was like, no, seriously, a lot of sunk costs, going ahead with something that's not economically viable that nobody wants. It sounds like my festival show.
That's heroic in a way.
That's about it for Irrational Fear tonight. Stick around after the credits for a bonus interview with an Australian QAnon supporter. I'm as surprised as you are, yet they'll talk to anyone. A big thank you to our fearmongers tonight, Sammy, Beck, Lewis, Patty, and yes, Kamal, who really fucked up the joke, but who cares? What have we got to plug? Patty, you've got your book, How Climate Change is Killing Us. Body Count.
Body Count, out now.
There it is. Great. Sammy, have you got anything to plug?
Yeah, please free Melbourne from the grip of stage 4. Stay at home, keep your mask on. I have nothing to plug because I have nowhere to go. So, yeah.
Beck Melrose, are you selling anything?
Absolutely not at the moment. I'm just waiting this one out. Be kind to each other. I'll take out away from Kamal.
Oh, very good. And Lewis, you got anything to plug?
Just my road trip to Byron Bay. If you know anyone there who doesn't wash their hands, tell them to keep it clean for the next fortnight.
Big thank you to everyone who helped out on this week's show, including Yanni Agisolo, Tony Uhas, Jacob Round, who is on the Teppanyaki timeline. Next week, Lewis is away, and for the next couple of weeks, but the podcast will go on. We'll have next week Jamila Rizvi, Rosie Waterland, and fellow Bertha fellow Lindo on the podcast. Until then, there's always something to be scared of. Goodbye. That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, fantastic.
Thanks,
yeah, well done.
Oh, wow. That was fun. That was fun. Thank you, everyone. That was a really fun show.
Yeah. Great story, Patty. It was, I
Yeah.
got a chance to read it today, but it was really, really interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope it happens. I doubt it will, but I hope it happens.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, that was
Very
fun. Thanks
interesting.
so much.
Thanks,
I'm
Patty.
gonna go watch
Thanks,
the footy.
Yeah, good on you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you.
Well done, gang. Nice
was
to see
Great,
you
no
all.
worries.
Yeah, cool.
I'll
Thanks,
send you the
everybody.
audio file in a bit. Yeah.
Thanks, Sammy. That's great. And thank you for doing this in lockdown. You know, it's
Like I had so many other things to do.
know,
it's
but
either this or Horizon Zero Dawn. So yeah.
it's nice. It was really great fun. Thanks, and thank you,
Yeah.
Beck. Thank you so much as well.
Thanks for having me back.
Nice to see you
Take
guys.
care, everybody. See you all
Cheers.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.